What do we think? 22 years old. It's a 1.2 litre petrol RN model, which I believe is one up from the base, as you can see, with these fantastic wheel trims, which are still in remarkably good condition. Yeah, there's a few scrapes and marks on them, but for 22 years old, they do look pretty clean. This one actually is kind of threatening to jettison perhaps at some stage, but yeah, she's good, isn't she? Let's get all the boring stuff out the way first. So she's 1999, as you can see there. She's taxed until the end of this month, July 2021, and she's NCT'd until the start of December. When I picked her up back at the start of June, she only had 63,600 odd miles on her. She's now got just over 65,000. So I've definitely done quite a bit of driving since I picked her up from Selbridge in County Kildare one Tuesday evening, as I said there, in the first week of June. Well, what can I say? I mean, she's comfortable. She's quite plucky when you put the foot down, and she handles motorways remarkably well. Look, there are a few marks here and there, as you can see, some scrapes and a bit of a scratch also there as well, and one on the door there too. And yet, look, there are some lichens growing in places and some detritus in these roof gutters. I must actually clean those out at some stage. Just give her a little bit of TLC. Yeah, here she is from the back. A bit of a dent there, as you can probably see. And the rear plate is a bit faded, would probably do with a bit of sprucing up, a bit of paint or whatever. But there's the rear. I haven't really parked it all that well, not much space and a bit of a hump down the ground. But yeah, I mean, I've given you kind of the facts regarding the MOT or the NCT and the tax and all that, and the mileage. So you're probably thinking, it might have cost a little bit, maybe around the 600-700 quid mark, maybe, considering the low mileage. And it's also got a pretty decent service history, actually. No, you'd be wrong at that price. It was €250. Yeah, just 250. Incredibly. I kind of keep thinking that something must go wrong soon. It's kind of too good to be true at that price, but no, nothing's gone wrong at all yet, thankfully. She does need a wash. As you can see there, there's some tree-related muck and plenty of dead insects on the radiator in there. That shouldn't really cause too much of an issue. A little bit of trim damage down here, as we can see. That probably should be a little bit straight, that little fender bit at the bottom there. But I have to say, for 250 quid to have a car NCT'd with a lengthy NCT, to have it taxed for a month, and for it to be running as well as this, is an absolute triumph of bargainness, if that's even a word. Yeah, so let's have a look at the interior. There's something a little bit wrong with the central lock, and as we can see, it's unlocked the rear door, no problem at all, but for some reason the driver's door, and then it does, no it doesn't really, so I'll have to manually unlock it. Not really that much of an issue, of course. And well, there we are. Look at that. It is so clean. You could, I mean, it does actually look almost brand new in there. Look at those seats. So much padding still in there, and so spongy and comfortable. They actually are really comfortable, especially on long journeys. Look at that upholstery pattern. Isn't that wonderfully 90s? It's fantastic, that, isn't it? As you can see there on the doors too, these pockets, of course, perfect for a sports size bottle of water. I really like this kind of funky design here with the inbuilt speaker and the electric windows, which do work, but I'll show you those once I pop the keys in the ignition, which actually I might as well do right now. There we go. They work. That's my dash cam, that noise in the background, and of course the passenger window works as well, which is brilliant. There's the mileage, 65,101. Nifty little air vents, which are very, very handy. What I do like actually is this little hole here actually, which is pretty handy for a 2021 spec wallet. And I love the tailored floor mat. Let's have a little look at the interior. We'll hop into it now in a second and assess her inside. But of course the rear, I haven't actually sat in the rear much at all for obvious reasons, because I'm driving it all the time. And I must actually put a set of floor mats in, which I have got at home, just ones that I got on the cheap in a local supermarket. But yeah, I mean, these have hardly been sat in at all. They're still lovely and soft. And yeah, of course, blessed with that wonderful interior upholstery pattern. Keep fit windows at the back, which wind almost all the way down. Let's get in and have a little look around inside. Pop these windows back up actually up to a point. Let me wind down the radio there as well so the interference doesn't ruin the video. Sadly, it's not the original stereo. If it was, I'd be able to use these wonderfully fantastic little controls. You know, we've got source volume, mute volume there again. There's a little wheel at the back to control the volume. There's the dashboard display. The RN model and models above this all came with this style of dashboard layout. I believe the base model didn't. It just came with a couple of integrated clocks. No rev counter on the most basic poverty model, which this one isn't actually that far off being. I love the attention to detail that Renault put in here. Let me pop my seatbelt on. You'll watch that red light there go out. Yeah, that's cool, isn't it? I like that. For some reason though, the door open one doesn't seem to work. That could be a knackered fuse. I haven't tried opening the boot actually, but I don't think that one indicates that it's the boot button, does it? Or a boot light or anything like that. Little storage cubby hole there. Not really that much use for anything, to be honest. Probably a bit of an afterthought. On some of the posher models, the clock readout stretched across the whole of that little display area there. And what is a little bit odd, I hope you can see there, is the way that that center console section is actually offset. You'll see that better when I get into the back in a moment. Light works. There we go. And obviously as soon as you open the door, it illuminates. We got the vanity mirror here. Oh, hello, how are you? You all right? With actually a ticket from a little trip to Greystones the other week. I must actually file that in my little scrapbook. And no Irish old car is ever complete without the St. Christopher Protect Us Medal of Honour, which I'm not particularly religious, but I actually quite like it. It's quite traditional in old Irish cars, so I'll leave it there. It has actually a passenger airbag and a driver's airbag. I mean, you wouldn't have any idea that this thing's got airbags, really, would you? I mean, like, it doesn't really spell it out to you that much, does it? Airbag, airbag. Yeah, there's a sticker there as well with the airbag logo on it. The doors actually, oh sorry, the windows also have little airbag thingies there as well, little airbag stickers. I do love the originality actually, because they would be quite easy to just remove, I suppose. The glove box is full of rubbish, my own rubbish. One little criticism is though the lack of cup holders. These are kind of okay, these little cup holders, but I did have a cup of tea and a little disposable cup on that the other day, and it just caught the lip here for a split second. That must have just dropped a little bit with the weight of it, and it spilt and knocked it into there. Thankfully it wasn't too difficult to mop up. Here we have the little layout here. I do think that this here was probably something of an afterthought. The hazard warning light, that probably should be on a big red button up there somewhere, to be honest. But it makes a great noise, doesn't it? Listen to that. Yeah, I really do like that. And we got a little bit of storage down here. Back in the day, of course, that would have been your ashtray, but it's really handy for coins, and of course the cigarette lighter there as well. The controls are all nice and easily accessible, of course, from where I'm seated, and we have the repeated funky little section down here with the inbuilt speaker and window controls. Now, there isn't a whole lot of room here in the back with the seat set for my height. Another issue, of course, is this. Not a whole lot of headroom either, to be honest. When Jeremy Clarkson did a review of this for Old Top Gear back in 1998, the launch year of this Mark II Clio, he did complain that the rear three-quarter vision, to use his terms, is absolutely knackered by these big thick pillars. He's dead right, actually. I only kind of realised it recently when I was reversing out of a car parking spot, but you can see nothing from behind, which is really rather annoying. There is that rather strange offset centre console arrangement there, but I suppose it works pretty well. It just looks a little bit strange. But as I said before, of course, keep fit windows here in the back, just to keep an element of poverty in the car, and a rather funky rear seat belt arrangement here. It's in, I think, is it? No, wrong one, sorry, that's a little bit annoying. There we go. That stretches down from the roof. Again, it kind of seems as though it's a maybe a bit of an afterthought, but I doubt the incredibly smart engineers at Renault had somehow forgotten to put a seatbelt in. They probably did it like that to avoid having to put a lap belt in, of course, because this just means it's an awful lot safer with the inertia reel system there. And of course I had to put the Giffer Spec scarf on the back shelf just to give it some OAP credentials. And of course none of my purchases are ever complete without the addition of an Auto Shite sticker. Alright then, so let's have a little look at the boot. Opens really nice and high. One slight issue is this. You can almost get your whole fingers in behind this little trim section. It is fully screwed in. I think there is only one screw though, which is a little bit odd. And when you close the boot lid, if you just close it like that, it's got a bit of a tendency to slam a little bit. The hatch is a little bit too free, but that's obviously only a small complaint. We can get a proper look at the boot. It's fairly big. Perhaps it could have been a little bit smaller to facilitate a little bit more room in the back, as I showed you there a moment ago. I've got very little leg room with the driver's seat set to my height. If we pop that up there, we have full toolkit and an original spare wheel dating back to 1999. I think it's a Michelin or a Pirelli or whatever. I couldn't quite figure out the exact date of manufacture for that tyre, but I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be doing too many miles on it. I think I'll just make sure that it's inflated properly at the right PSI for emergencies. So that's the boot. Just lower that down there. There we go. There is the wonderful engine bay of the Clio. And of course it is remarkably clean in here, considering it's only covered 65,000 miles. Oh, well, that's the reason why it's so clean, of course. We have, of course, got all this horrible tree detritus in there. I must try and remove all that at some stage. Rather interesting location for the washer bottle there. But I mean, look, how clean is she in here? Hardly a mark. The timing belt was done almost a year ago at 60,509 miles. So it's done 5,000 miles since then. I love all these HT leads with the Renault logo on them. That's pretty cool, isn't it? The timing belt, as we said there, just for added peace of mind, has been done. Engine mounts look lovely and clean-ish, as do the suspension turrets and all the organic matter which has accumulated here. Yeah, gearbox down there and the alternator, etc, etc. And I think actually all the belts were done relatively recently. That's a Continental belt on that one there, look, because I've got some pretty good service history with it. I think they were all done about 2 years ago when it was only about 56,000, 57,000 miles, so it hasn't covered many miles at all. in its life, but especially not in recent years. Here's the stickers. I love all this stuff, all this attention to detail. It's absolutely wonderful. Brilliant, isn't it? Yeah, so that's the engine bay. I'm going to pop that bonnet down now, and we shall go for a drive. One thing I almost criminally forgot to show you is the windscreen wipers here at the front. Watch this, look. It jumps. Isn't that cool? We'll see it again. Hopefully, will we? Brilliant, that, isn't it? Brilliant piece of French design. Let's have a look at that from the outside. That double hinged design there. Yeah, look at that. God. I have to say, first off, the gearbox for a 22-year-old car, it's so tight and it's incredibly smooth through the gears. Let's just get rid of that excess road noise with the window open. It is such a lovely, tight, smooth gearbox, actually. You can really just throw it through the gears. I'm into fifth already. We'll drop it down to fourth momentarily just to get a bit of poke out of it. There we go. Foot down. And smoothly and effortlessly into fifth. Absolutely fantastic stuff, that. Car's only got 65,103, just gone 104 miles on it, so I suppose its tightness and smoothness shouldn't really be that much of a surprise given how few miles it's done. Speaking of Clio, there's a Mark 1. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, lovely stuff. Oh, you're not really going to be able to see that, I don't think, on the camera. Yeah, back to the car, obviously. It handles these bumpy, windy country roads really, really well, and it's lovely and nippy. These seats are really, really comfortable. They've got a lovely bit of excess support and padding here at the side, just to prevent you from, I suppose, rolling over the place too much. The interior is spacious, it's comfortable, and there's loads of glass area. One other attribute this car has is its ability to just completely and utterly soak up every bump in the road. It is remarkably comfortable. Again, very, very few miles on it, so I suppose that helps. There's a speed bump now. Yeah, and obviously, I mean, you know you've gone over it, but I mean, it's ridiculously smooth. This car hardly drinks any petrol at all. It's incredibly economical. I did do an MPG test in it, and I've only managed to do one of them so far because basically, as soon as it begins to run out of fuel, it just takes so long for the warning light to come on. The fuel warning light can be a little bit temperamental. It comes on sometimes, then goes off, then comes on. If you're going uphill, it goes off. If you're going downhill, it comes on. If the engine's at a certain temperature and low on fuel, it comes on. If it's kind of got a bit of a mind of its own, so I don't really trust it fully yet. Hopefully, I will get to in time. But it hardly drinks fuel. I will, of course, do a couple of those MPG tests and get an average result for it at some stage, but preliminary results are 51 miles to the gallon, which for a 22-year-old French hatchback is pretty good. So here we are then on the motorway in these wet conditions. We've got a couple of lorries having a drag race behind us. That is 60 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour. Let's keep going. That then is up to 70 miles an hour. She pulls really, really well, actually, remarkably well. Sorry if this gets a little bit shaky here due to the speed, and that's us then at 120 kilometers an hour, almost 80 mile an hour. No, 75, so we'll back off there because, of course, I don't want to kill this poor thing. But yeah, look, as I was saying, lovely and comfortable to drive. And I mean, like, you're sitting here, the seats are absolutely fantastic. They are so comfortable. I know I keep mentioning it, but they're just ridiculously soft. And you could quite easily do a really long motorway journey here and convince yourself that you're in something a lot bigger with a lot more power. It just eats up the motorway miles very easily indeed. So then, to surmise this fantastic little car, I'm really, really happy with it, actually. It's been probably the best of my crap car collective purchases so far, really. I just can't get over how clean it is. It's just absolutely fantastic. I mean, it drives like a brand new car. It really, really does. Just to get that camera adjusted correctly there. It's just remarkable. What more can I say, really? It's so clean in here, you'd swear it just rolled off the production line. Yeah, there's a couple of dings and scrapes on the bodywork. I had that ever so slight issue with the lack of cup holders, which of course isn't big at all. There's that ever so slight issue with the boot trim.
looking a little bit flimsy, and the fact that the boot likes to kind of slam itself shut. I also didn't mention that there is an issue with the central lock-in as well. Actually, no, I did mention that, I think, in the little walk-around video I did earlier on, which means that you have to keep constantly locking and unlocking the driver's door here manually. But I mean, look, they're all just little niggles. In fact, when I went to pick it up, when I went to test drive, I asked the seller, you know, are there any mechanical faults? And expecting for what I paid for it, him to turn around and say, yeah, XYZ needs doing, blah, 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 whatever. He said, oh, yeah, there is something actually wrong. It's the central lock, it's a little bit iffy. It's a little technical gremlin. And I thought, all right, yeah, sound, listen, no problem at all. If that's the only issue, I'm more than happy to go along with that. That's another issue, actually, as well, that I'm still not quite used to the clutch in this car just yet. There we go. Of course, time should remedy that issue, and that's not the car, that's me. So yeah, look, I mean, this car is absolutely fantastic, comfortable, spacious, roomy, versatile, practical, plenty of glass area, electric front windows, decent service history, the belts have all been done, it's been regularly serviced on the button. There is a bit of a gap in the service history from about 2001, 2002 until about 2011-ish, which isn't great, but at least I've got most of the recent service history, plenty of tax discs and recent NCTs as well. So look, I'm really happy. It taxed until the end of this month, July 2021, NCT'd until the 2nd of December 2021. And just to remind you all how much I paid, just €250. You can't go wrong.